Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Angela Kirby, and I'm the director of the Patent Central Office. I'm here today with my colleagues, Dr. Tim Runge and Dr. Matt Flanagan, and our purpose today is to provide you with updates on Pennsylvania's IDEA-funded state system of support, customized professional development and technical assistance. Our agenda for today is to provide you with an update on Pennsylvania's IDEA-funded system of support, share with you an overview of our customized professional development and technical assistance model, provide you with a way on how to request support, address a specific type of support, systemic support, and what the application process for that will look like for the 25-26 school year, and then provide you with my contact information if there are further questions. So, as many of you are aware, the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance Network is a project of the Pennsylvania Department of Education and part of the larger Department of Education's commitment to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The Individuals with Disability Education Act, Part B, which is the portion of IDEA that supports school age supports for students in school age programs, has a requirement that LEAs are afforded free, no-cost training and technical assistance through a system of professional development. We're lucky, very lucky here in Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Department of Education continues to fund this system through a coordinated effort with the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance Networks and our local intermediate units that have training and consultation staff assigned to respective areas to support LEAs across the Commonwealth. This IDEA-funded state system of support, its purpose is to coordinate professional development and technical assistance through the patents and IUs. It ensures that we have a state system that's consistent, targeted, and provides LEAs with the supports they need in order to implement evidence-based practices that strengthen instruction and improve outcomes for all kids, but with a focus on students with disabilities. Our supports are designed to help LEAs ensure students are educated in the least restrictive environment and in alignment with IDEA requirements. And the collaboration between patent and our IUs is to provide this support to public entities across the Commonwealth, addressing the instructional and programmatic needs of students with disabilities through the unified state system of support. So since 2022, the Pennsylvania Department of Education has re-envisioned how LEAs could go about getting and receiving this type of support. Before we unpack all of that type of support, we just kind of want to share with you some data. In 2022, 2023, and 2024, the Department of Education offered a 1 to 3 year support mechanism called systemic supports. And the purpose of these supports was to help school-based teams look systemically at programs that would address the needs of students with a focus on addressing students with disabilities. So supporting MTSS models with the goal of creating inclusive environments so students with disabilities are receiving rigorous, robust instruction in Tier 1, and then data-based interventions in addition to core instruction, depending on needs in secondary and tertiary types of supports. So over the last 3 years, when we look at the type of requests that we've received for systemic types of support, so this is long-term, job-embedded, an approach to help changing systems for kids, we found that the highlighted areas of need were least restrictive environment and high instance disabilities. The other type of support that has been available for LEAs across the state for the last 3 years has been emergent support. We're going to go into more details of what emergent looks like, but this is the type of support that is something that pops up where there's a specific need or request, and it's something that needs some maybe job embedded coaching and or support, but then it's a short duration of time, and that time period is short in duration. And so we look at our data from the last few years, we're seeing that the type of support we're getting, a request for support that we're getting for emergent, come in the areas of behavior and classroom management and instructional practices. And a lot of time, if we don't even impact on instructional practices, it's usually instructional practices related to evidence-based approaches in the area of literacy. The third type of request that LEAs can make is called critical support. And critical support is something that happens that's kind of an immediate nature. So it may be a specific need. Maybe you have an emergency permitted autism support teacher and you need someone to come in and help them. Or you're really trying to look at some emotional support programs. So you're getting your kiddos that are in maybe more self-contained emotional support classrooms and getting them more in general education, but you need some really kind of immediate supports to help with that. Critical are things that are of an immediate nature, and in the area of critical, we try to, as a state system, through our patents and our IU partners, to get support out there within 24 hours. So that kind of gives you the nature of what we see critical is something that we want to get support out there as soon as possible. So in looking at that data, you can kind of see throughout the years, the types of requests that we've received and the amount of requests. And I guess my mistake to just kind of quickly, define, but not look at the data. So you can see that as we looked at the data and types of cases, the amount of cases across our system. So the directors in the East and the West, the patent system, and then our IU partners in each of those respective regions. So we had a lot of new systemics. Those were obviously, that year one. And then as you can see, because most of our systemics went for maybe 2 or 3 years, those numbers decreased over the years because we were still helping a lot of LEAs in that year one. You can see what the data looks like there for emergent. And then as you can see, the critical needs are continuing to increase. Last but not least, the fourth type of support that LEAs can avail of is just professional development. So there's type training that you're looking for or supports. And again, this type of support has been most frequently, as evidenced by the data, in the areas of behavior, structured literacy, mathematics, and autism. So moving forward for the 25-26 school year, we're going to kind of tweak some of our definitions to the respective areas that I just shared. And then we have a new system to go about helping LEAs as they apply for those types of supports. It should look and feel very similar to what you're used to, but my colleague, Dr. Flanagan, is going to share that with you. So let me start with saying that when we think about our work, we're trying to focus on our IDEA state system of support, and we're looking at how are we providing evidence-based practices support customized professional development and technical assistance. So LEAs may request targeted professional learning aligned to your school's goals and educators' needs. And for professional development, these sessions may be offered in person or virtually and can cover a range of topics such as specially designed instruction, behavioral supports, inclusive practices, literacy, math, instruction, or any other areas aligned with IDEA requirements and evidence-based practices. Our critical supports are designed to address urgent or high-need situations, such as instructional challenges in special ed settings. Critical supports may include short-term, on-site, or job-embedded coaching, technical assistance, stabilization support to strengthen instructional practice and enhance learning environments for students with disabilities, including those thought by emergency permitted teachers. Now, when you put in a critical request, there are some specific commitments, and Dr. Flanagan is going to share that with you, that we ask you kind of think about. For example, if we're going to get folks out in a short term to be on site, or either a patent or IU colleagues, we would want to know who is going to be our internal coach, like who's going to be there to support the 1 or 2 objectives that you have defined as things that we are going to be working on together. Because remember, critical is for a short duration of time. So you're going to see in the application, we ask you to think about what is it you would like support in? Can you list the 1 or 2 things? And then who's going to be there? Who's going to be our side by side with us as we're working to try to build local capacity and have kind of an internal coach to help maintain and or generalize supports that have been provided. The other type of support emergent for the 25-26 school year will be defined as focused on targeted specific areas for improvement. Emergent provides professional development and job-embedded coaching aligned to your current needs and identified by the LEA. Supports may include on-site modeling, co-planning, and technical assistance to strengthen practices and build capacity. And again, what differentiates emergent is it's not of kind of a critical nature, but again, in the application, we're going to ask you to think about, okay, of this support, what are a couple objectives that you would like to, the things that you would like to realize as a result of this support. And then again, who's going to be our person with us as we navigate supporting your LEA in that area. And last but not least, my colleague, Dr. Tim Runge, is going to be sharing with you one of the things that we're very excited about for systemic supports. This year, our new approach to systemic supports, our new year of 3-year cycle begins. And we're going to be offering 2 types of systemic supports for 25-26. Dr. Runge is going to share with you something we're very excited about, which is our integrated MTSS support. And he's going to talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to share with you our supports around emotional support. So for 25-26, these are kind of the new definitions guiding our work. And as we receive requests from LEAs for these types of supports, we'll be asking you to think of some objectives specific to emergent and critical that you'd like to realize as a result of those supports, and who will be with us. So if, I'm coming out to support your teachers on inclusive practices, who from the administrative team or coaching team or lead teacher would be with me side by side as we are working to build internal capacity. All right, so next, we're going to talk about what's the systemic support application will look like for 25-26. I'm going to start with sharing what the emotional support application looks like. And then, as I said, we're really excited to share with you what the integrated application will look like. And Dr. Tim Runge will share that with you. So for 25-26, the systemic application, and again, systemic long-term, really working on building systems to support kids. One of the areas of priority will be emotional support programs. We have had a focus on emotional support programs for the last 3 years. We have built internal capacity within our state system, both the Pattons and our IU partners. And many of our IU partners are absolute experts since they run a lot of programs that are supporting our kids with emotional support needs. As we look at that work, we've had boot camps and kind of intensive teaching programs to kind of support getting new and emergency permitted teachers up to speed with very specific skills they need. And as we've supported our emotional support programs over the last few years, the requests tended to come in mostly out of the critical and or emergent level. And we're still obviously going to be doing that work. But this year, we really want to commit to how do we help LEAs build systems to support students who have emotional and behavioral needs in the context of a continuum of services. Too often, we're going out and supporting critical needs for kids that are in maybe a self-contained ES class. And by the time we're getting out there, there's lots of issues that could have maybe been mitigated if we had maybe built some more systems and put some systems in place. And we know everybody is navigating this in different places, but this year the Bureau has asked that our commitment be to help think through how LEAs can systemically build systems to support students with emotional and behavioral needs with a focus on inclusive practices. Too often we know our kids with emotional needs end up in more segregated full-time classrooms, and it's obviously an IEP team decision, and nobody is judging that. IEP teams make that decision. But a lot of times when we're looking at the data, we're seeing that a lot of times in programs where schools don't have school-wide approaches to addressing positive behavior supports or ways that they've navigated the teaching of the language of expectations and the norms for what it means to be a student in the classroom, in the hallway, on the bus. But those things typically aren't in place. And so oftentimes our students with emotional needs, they already have a deficit in those areas. And the fact that the larger general ed systems don't have those things in place often put those kids even more in a deficit. And so this year, for our competitive component for the systemic application, we're going to highlight emotional support programs with LEAs who really want to think strategically around a systems of support approach to ensuring a continuum of services for kids with emotional support needs, who want to figure out how to get those kids more access to inclusive environments. So the emotional support application will go live after this webinar today, and then applications are due by September 2nd, 2025. Again, prioritization is you really want to work on building those systems, but our system will still take those critical and emergent requests, and Dr. Flanagan will share that with you in a little bit, how you would go about accessing those other types of supports. But the systemic application for emotional support as a priority with a focus on commitment to inclusive practices will go live today, and the application will be due on September 2nd. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Tim Runge, who's going to share a very exciting approach for integrated MTSS, our other competitive area for systemic applications for 25-26.
Thank you, Dr. Kirby. I just want to double check. There is a question in the chat about the copy of the presentation being available. If you could respond to that. I think I know the answer, but I don't want to misspeak.
Yes, absolutely. Everything will be available after this webinar. It will be posted on the patent website, as well as it will be posted on the patent website, as well as on the patent YouTube channel. And all those in attendees will receive an updated link to that correspondence.
Great, thank you. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is provide a brief overview of the purpose of the integrated MTSS application for systemic support, and then the application requirements. Please understand that the application requirements are going to be detailed in the application itself, and therefore I don't anticipate you needing to take copious notes at this moment, because again, all of what I'm about to share is provided within the application itself. Overall, the purpose of the integrated MTSS or IMTSS application for systemic supports is to identify and subsequently support a number of schools that are already implementing either PBIS, positive behavioral interventions and supports, or academic MTSS, or even ideally, schools that are implementing elements of both as they begin to integrate the frameworks to provide instruction and intervention supports to address the needs of the whole child. Within an IMTSS framework, systematic integration of best practices and procedures from PBIS and academic MTSS are seamlessly integrated into one model, not siloed frameworks. Therefore, and to that end, Pennsylvania Department of Education, Bureau of Special Ed, and Patent invite schools that are implementing elements of PBIS and/or elements of MTSS for academics to apply for a multi-year opportunity to co-construct and implement all tiers of an integrated MTSS framework. An emphasis is placed on supporting all students across the tiers, with a particular focus on meaningful and effective integration of students with the most complex needs in Tier 1 instruction, assessment practices, and database decision-making processes. The application has 4 primary sections, again, all of which are defined within the application itself, but I'm going to provide a brief overview at this point. The first section, we invite applicants to provide a strong rationale for why the school is motivated to integrate PBIS and academic MTSS into one seamless and integrated framework. That argument should be articulated, followed by a description of current academic, social, emotional, and behavioral practices. In the second section, applicants are required to provide, as available, recent systems-level fidelity data collected within the past 1 to 2 years, including the PBIS tiered fidelity inventory, the reading tiered fidelity inventory, the math tiered fidelity inventory, the district systems fidelity inventory, and/or the integrated MTSS fidelity rubric. Please understand that if applicants have not completed these system-level fidelity measures, there is nothing to be concerned about. It is likely, however, that schools selected for this integrated MTSS support would be invited to complete many of those systems-level fidelity measures at the very beginning stages. If, however, an applicant does have those fidelity measures from the past 1 to 2 years, we would certainly welcome them. And again, that process of completing those systems-level fidelity measures, if they weren't already done in the past, would be facilitated by the Intermediate Unit, by Patent, and our national partners at the American Institutes for Research, otherwise known as AIR. In the third section of the application, schools are required to commit to inclusive practices for all students. Throughout this application, the term all students is defined as all students enrolled within the school. The term all students does not solely refer to students who are primarily educated in general education classrooms. Instead, the term all students includes any student with an individualized education program or an IEP. Students with IEPs include all disability categories under IDEA. The term all students also includes students of any type of classroom or program within the school itself, such as, but not limited to, emotional support, autistic support, life skills, multiple disability, and physical support. When answering the questions within this application, please know that a reference to all students includes every student. Within this third section of the application, schools are required to provide details on their inclusion efforts to this point across the tiers and across key features of MTSS, including assessment, instruction, intervention, database decision-making, and infrastructure considerations. And then in the fourth and final section of the IMTSS systemic support application, schools must submit some of the following data. The first is their most recent 3 years of CEDAR, special education data report. And we are particularly focusing in on the proportion of students placed in the 3 LRE categories, and then also the proportion of students in the district. Of course, these are district level data we recognize. But then the second area of CEDAR data that we are most interested in would be the proportion of students who are identified as having a specific learning disability. So we recognize that these are district level data and not specific to a building, and the application is for a building, but nonetheless, having an insight into the district level data would be helpful. Second broad category of data would be a provision of the either PSSA, Keystone, or PASA data, whichever is relevant for that particular school, with an emphasis on building level performance levels, as well as grade level disaggregation and disaggregation of data for students with disabilities. Third category of data would be, as applicable, PVOS diagnostic data reports for the entire building, then disaggregated by grade level and for students with disabilities. Again, that would only be applicable for schools for which PVOS is a relevant data source. And then lastly, fourth category of data that we are asking schools to submit is only applicable to those schools that are participants in the PA-PBS network. And specifically, we are asking schools who are applying for this type of support to submit their PA-PBS network annual data from the most recent school year that they have those data, whether it's the 2023-24 or the 24-25 academic year, whichever is the one that you already have and have submitted. So those would be the 4 broad categories of data. And frankly, those are going to be the data sources that we're monitoring over time to see whether or not our efforts are having the desired impact on being more inclusive for all students and subsequently really helping schools understand how we can support all students to the best that they can across the 3 tiers. So that concludes a very brief summary of the application requirements for integrated MTSS systemic supports. As is indicated here, the application will be live after today's session and will be due by September 2nd. And all of the details that I just shared are in the application itself. We do not want this to be a mystery. We want you to know exactly what we're looking for. And so we tried to be as clear and explicit as possible in what we would need. Dr. Kirby, if you wouldn't mind, please advancing to the next slide. You will see for everyone here, that's just simply a screenshot of the application for integrated MTSS. And Dr. Kirby also is showing now the one for emotional support, systemic supports application as well. So those are what the 2 will look like. And I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Flanagan, who is going to share with us how to access the application materials.
As Dr. Flanagan is getting ready to showcase this, I just want to note again that Tim just highlighted and I highlighted the systemic application, but what Dr. Flanagan is going to show is the request portal for all of the types of support that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation.
And if I may respond quickly to the question in the chat about where do LEAs access the Fidelity tools, I would encourage you to reach, if you're a PBIS school, your PBIS facilitator hopefully has already shared those results with you, but if not, you can reach out to your PBIS facilitator and they can get you a copy of those. And if you have completed any of the other more academically geared fidelity measures, such as the reading TFI or the math TFI, or the IMFR, the Integrated MTSS Fidelity Rubric, your patent consultant should have shared those results with you, but once again, you could reach out to them and they should be able to access those data for you. But ideally, we would have been sharing those data back with teams after they completed those fidelity tools.
Great, thank you. Before we take a step-by-step tour of the supports portal, I'm briefly going to go over the support request process to give you a little bit more understanding of what it'll feel like once you make a request. So you'll first go to supports.patent.net. You'll complete the relevant request form. As my colleagues have demonstrated, there are several to choose from based upon your circumstances, and we're going to see those in a moment. Once you make your request, the system will provide you automated confirmation of your request, detail some key aspects of your request, and in that automated email, the relevant patent and IU staff are automatically notified and included. They are CC'd in that email. The individuals that are included automatically change depending upon your educational entity. Meaning, are you a school district or charter? Are you an approved private school, an intermediate unit, for example, and additional factors such as the type of request. Once your request is received, the relevant parties will review that request, and depending upon the type and the nature of the request, will begin specific timelines and steps as outlined in the application and by my colleagues today. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and we'll take a look at this application together, each of them. Okay, so on supports.patent.net, key information about the supports approach that Dr. Kirby had shared, as well as our definitions of the systemic, critical, emergent, professional development, and our autism supports are provided here. Please note that depending upon the time of the year or the cycle in which we are currently in and additional factors, not all support request types may be available for selection at the time you're entering the website. So all of those definitions we saw in the presentation today are also on the supports website in order to, again, as my colleague Tim had mentioned, for full transparency, want you to understand very clearly what these support types are, their purpose, in order for you to make an informed decision about which support type best matches the needs that you're seeking support for. One key note is that all applications are expected to be submitted by the local education agency administrator. In order to select your type of application, you'll simply scroll down the page, and under where it says select support type, you will select your desired support type. As we were just talking about our systemic options, we're going to take a look there. Before I do, we do have the ability to contact our technical support related to this application down at the bottom at any point if you need it. Now I'll be asked to select the particular type of systemic supports. As my colleagues have just demonstrated, there are multiple types of systemic supports that are available this year. I'm going to select our integrated MTSS. The application will now open for integrated MTSS. You'll notice at the top, and this is true for each of the support request types, there are basic required details. So you must select your educational entity. The types of entities allowed are based upon the type of request that are being made. So systemic are open to particular entity types versus critical versus emergent. So I'm just going to select one here to show you. The system will automatically populate the options available to you. You'll notice that it'll take a moment for it to load. And then once I select my school district in this example, it will then populate with sites, and I can select one or more sites from the drop-down menu. You'll need to put in a person of contact name, email, phone number, and position. That is required for any type of request, whether it be systemic, emergent, critical, professional development, or autism. And now at this point, we get into the specific items or questions for this application. As my colleague had mentioned, the first section for MTSS is rationale for the application. The input process is pretty straightforward in that you will just type in your responses in reflecting and responding to the prompts provided. When applicable, you will be making a selection from a drop-down menu. When you make selections from drop-down menus, if you are requested or able or allowed to select more than one, it depends upon the question. Some will allow you to select one, some will allow you to select multiple. You will just click those options from the drop-down and they'll appear all inside of the box there. Some, as I mentioned, are single selects, a yes, no. In this section for fidelity tools and data readiness, as my colleagues have mentioned, there are particular, if you are answering yes for some of these questions, if you do have this data within the past 1 to 2 years, you would be uploading that into the application using the file uploader at the bottom of the form. It behaves like all other file uploaders you would have likely experienced, where you select a file from your computer. The files will appear in the table below. I can demonstrate for you. You can delete before you submit, so you're not bound to whichever you upload. They'll appear here. You can upload as many files as you need to according to the required and optional documents that are being asked. All you have to do is select the X button to remove any of the files that you have pending for upload. These files are not officially uploaded and attached to your application until it is submitted. So as you're going through this section for fidelity tools and data readiness, if you are answering yes, for example, to question 4, you would want to come down and attach the relevant file or files inside the file uploader. You're able to upload text documents, spreadsheets, so CSV files or Excel sheets, as well as PDFs. There is also, in this particular application, the requirement to read and confirm a definition and commitment to inclusion. You'll have to click the read and confirm button, scroll and confirm in order to unlock the remaining questions on the page, which are required. You'll see the button will turn green with a check mark that signifies you have confirmed to that commitment. You'll then make selections from the drop-downs. You have the option to put in other where applicable. When prompted, you'll be providing short or longer responses to the prompts provided. Again, some require single selection, as we saw above, some are multiple selection. You'll make sure that you have completed all of the items on the form. However, when you go to submit, if you are missing any items on the form or any of the files, it will let you know and prevent you from submitting until you have corrected your response. So if a message comes up and asks you to check for missing answers, we recommend to scroll to the top of the page again and make sure that you've answered each individual one. For example, maybe one of your selects are missing, you've just skipped one by accident. We also see, and we'll notice in a moment, in other applications, there are checkboxes for confirmation. It is possible that individuals may not see the checkbox. Things like that are common issues preventing submission. So that is our MTSS, our integrated MTSS application. In addition, we also have our emotional support. Like MTSS and all of the other applications, you have to put in your basic details, and those basic details are the same across all applications. You'll then put in your rationale. The rationale are specific to this form and this request type. There is a mix of written responses and multiple select. Again, you just select one or more as relevant from the drop-down menu, and they will appear as what are called tags inside of the select. You can simply click the X to remove one of your options, or the X along the side to remove all of your options. Down below, there are additional selects. These are single selects. And this is what I was mentioning before, that at times, rather than clicking a button to confirm and read a particular statement or definition related to the application, you may be asked, as here, to select a checkbox. And there have been instances where an individual may reach out to us stating they are unable to submit. And quite often it is due to not having the assurances checkbox made at the very bottom. We know as you're going through, there is quite a bit of text, so it is easy to miss sometimes as you're going through to submit. In addition to our systemic offerings, we're going to take a look at our critical. The critical has some additional information about the request purpose up above, so please be sure to read those instructions as they are directly relevant to the request parameters and whether or not the request you're making fits the particular parameters around the request type for customized critical supports. You'll put in your basic details as always. You'll provide a reason for the support request, as Dr. Kirby had mentioned. In addition, you'll be selecting your specific area of support needed. If there is a specific area of support needed that is not in the drop-down menu, you are able to type in that drop-down menu. And you'll see as I did that here, I will click on the option, and I have added my own custom option to the specific support area. So we strongly recommend as much as possible to select the options available, but if your particular request does not meet one of these categories here, you're able to type in and select your own options under specific area support needed. You'll select one or more target audience areas, grade levels for support. And then, as mentioned before, make sure that you are checking for that you have completed any assurance checkboxes like we have here related to the commitment to assign a staff member as an internal coach. And then down below, once you have committed to that assurance statement, you'll also have to do one or two things. So you'll either put in the name and the position of the coach, or your plan and timeline for assigning the internal coach. If you do not have an internal coach, you can leave the coach name and position blank as stated by the helper text and just put in your timeline for seeking and assigning one. Or if you have one, you can put the name and position, and you do not have to put a plan and timeline for assigning if you already have the coach identified. Taking a look at emergent. As with our other applications, there's information above related to the purpose and parameters around making emergent requests to, again, help and guide you to understand whether an emergent request best fits and best serves the needs that you're seeking to have support for. You'll put in your basic details, as with all other request types, your rationale, which is similar to critical. And you'll notice across the emergent application, there are many similarities with the critical application. You are, again, able to select a specific support area or type in and select your own. The specific support areas are different than they are for critical support. However, your target audiences and grade levels of support will be the same. Options that are available. You'll put in your objectives. As mentioned, these are one or two specific goals to be achieved through the support. Your preferred timeline for support. We ask that you provide any relevant context that may influence that timeline. We would like to know any previous steps taken and the partners that were engaged in those steps to support this particular area of need or areas of need that you're requesting support for. You'll have to identify or provide a timeline for your internal coach, and you'll have to commit to assigning that staff member as an internal coach. So this is the same process as for critical. If you have your coach, you'll provide their name and their position. And if you do not have their coach, you'll provide a plan and a timeline for assigning the coach. Either way, you'll be checking that box to confirm that you're assigning a staff member. If by the end of the application, you're getting the little message that appears, letting you know that you're missing one or more items, make sure that you have checked that confirmation box. Taking a look at our final type of support that we'll be taking a tour for today is our PD, our professional development. As we can see on our homepage, again, if you have questions about these types of support request options and which fits best, we definitely recommend first reading through the descriptions again on the landing page, reaching out to our team for support, and then making your request. We see that our PD support is different than our emergent and our critical, right? So these questions, while including basic details as all other requests, this one simply asks you to identify your target audience or audiences, your grade level or grade levels of support, and then to provide a detailed description of the professional development being requested. So to the greatest extent possible, we would like you to provide details about the needs and goals, as well as the context around what has led to needing support for those goals and what may influence efforts to achieve those goals. So we're looking for a detailed description here related to the professional development being requested, the goals, the individuals involved, any contextual factors that may influence ongoing work to support this particular area or areas of need, and any previous work that has been done supports us in supporting you. The more information we are provided from the requester, the better we are able to identify the relevant parties to be engaged in supporting you, and the quicker we can get out into the field and support you with that work. So that is a overview of our current support options. Again, not all options will be available at this time, as for example, for autism supports, those are available at a different time frame. However, the definitions for those and further information is provided here and on the patent website. I'm going to bring it back over to my colleagues for final comments, questions, and to wrap things up.
Thank you, Dr. Flanagan. Dr. Flanagan provided you with the direct URL to our supports request, which is supports.patent.net. But I also encourage you just to visit our patent.net website, where you also will see direct links to the supports.patent.net customized application. So if for some reason you forget that specific URL, you will see a big button on our website that says apply for customized PD and support, and it'll take you to the same request portal. In closing, as the IDEA funded system of support, we are being thoughtful around how we support our LEAs, ensuring students with disabilities are accessing the general education classroom and curriculum in the least restrictive environment. And our goal is to provide these supports across a continuum of services wherever our students with disabilities are, but with the goal of ensuring that students are receiving evidence-based instructional practices and supports. Although the systemic application will only be live through September 2nd, all of the other types of requests for support will be always available on an ongoing basis, and therefore you can use that application to apply for those respective supports. You will also see that there's a definition around our autism supports, and as Dr. Flanagan mentioned, the timeline is different because that really is about systemic approaches, a systemic application for our patent autism initiative supports. And right now we are steady and ready to go with our patent autism initiative systemic supports for 25-26, of which we have close to 750 classroom-based sites across the Commonwealth. So with that said, I'd like to thank you for your attention today. We really appreciate all your supports. This, as soon as we get our closed captioning and editing of this presentation, we will be sharing this on our patent YouTube channel, prominently on our website, across all social media. And if we can, without spamming folks, anybody who registered, we will try to figure out how to get you a direct link. But look for, within the next day, the webinar being posted widely across all those different venues. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank Dr. Runge and Dr. Flanagan, and we're looking forward to partnering with you to support our kids for the 25-26 school year.